Hello everybody, I am Baltmatrix, and on this channel we have already taken a look at Bumblebee movie Ratchet and Bumblebee movie Brawn. Oh, and we've also taken a look at Bumblebee movie Soundwave, but there are a couple more Autobots we need to take a look at. Today we are going to be taking a look at Bumblebee movie Ironhide, Arcee, and Wheeljack. Now, I've had these figures for a couple of months at this point, and I've got some opinions about them that we'll be talking about. But the first thing I want to mention is that some of these figures have not held up all that well. Ratchet and Ironhide both have very loose hips, like ridiculously loose, to the point where, you can't even hold the figure up by them. I'm going to see if I can tighten that somehow using chemicals. Arcee, I actually don't have any problems with Arcee. She's fine. Wheeljack, on the other hand, noodly, noodle. And that's really a shame because all of these figures are just chef's kiss good. I wish I didn't have these QC issues. Starting off with Ironhide, he is simply a repaint of Ratchet. Everything that Ratchet was is exactly the same here, just in different colors. We've got dark, red, gray, and, well, silver there for the crotch. Head sculpt is good, obviously much more alien than, well, the Ironhide I've already reviewed, which was the Studio Series 86 Ironhide. This head sculpt is pretty good, but I still prefer the 86 one. Face is, well, it's definitely an alien robot face. Unfortunately, like all other Ironhides, we've got some color mismatching. The red that is painted on the clear chest is not the same as the red that is on the back of his shoulders, which is a different red from what is inside his armpits and his shoulders. Yeah, Hasbro's just getting real bad at color matching, especially with red, because we've got, 3, maybe 4 different shades of red on this figure? It's getting kind of bad now. Posability is also the same as Ratchet. Head is on a ball joint. Arms go 360 on a swivel, hinge for in and out movement. Bicep swivel, though the bicep swivel is much tighter than the shoulder. Bend at the elbow is about 90 degrees, no fist articulation, torso articulation, and then the hips go wherever the hell they want to at the moment of picking the figure up. Legs can kick out 90 degrees. There is a thigh swivel, though the thigh swivel is way tighter than the hip swivel. And then bend is over or just about 90 degrees. Foot has rocker side to side and some forward and back movement. Not that much, though. I would love to be able to tell you that the figure has a lot of posability, which it actually does, but it's all moot because of those hips. They just will not hold any poses unless it's a static, perfectly upright pose. Anything else, and he just falls down in a floppy mess. And if you're wondering how Ratchet is holding up, same. I love this little doofy truck. I absolutely love it. It's not even a van. It's like a future van. It's kind of what NASA is planning to, the rovers on Mars that humans would drive on. Reminds me of that. Or it reminds me of the rover from that one Matt Damon movie where he was stuck on Mars. For the life of me, I can't remember what it was. But I love this little thing. It's so small and doofy and just absolutely wonderful. And then Ratchet is the same mold, whom I really do like this mold. I just wish it held up better over time. The thing is really cool. Now, one thing that I find very interesting is here is the Studio Series Bumblebee movie, and here is the new Studio Series 86 Ironhide. Notice one major difference. They remembered the yellow pinstripe on the Bumblebee movie one, but they didn't put a pinstripe on the 86 Studio Series one. Why? Why? I could put one on myself, but it would have been really nice if they had remembered, his iconic pinstripe. So Ironhide would be very cool in robot mode if it weren't for these QC issues. And I haven't had Ironhide that long, maybe a few months. I'm curious, though. Let me try something real quick. Nope, that didn't do anything. I was wondering if maybe the screw for his hips was not in all the way. But it's in all the way. It's just... this thing be floppy. Next up is Wheeljack, who is in this off-white and gunmetal color. Red on the chest, green there, and then a head sculpt that is... the head sculpt is perfect. I mean, it's just perfect. I could not get a better head sculpt or want a better head sculpt. It's great. It really is. I mean, those baby blues. They've even got the blue on the thing on antenna. Would those be antennas on his head? Yeah, it's such a good figure. Except... noodles. And that's really a shame, because this is a fantastic figure with probably one of the most interesting transformations we've gotten from a Wheeljack in a long time. It's very cool. It's very cool. And I love the fact that he has weapon storage on the back. But man, just, I'm getting sick of stupid loose joints. Head, ball joint, shoulders, swivel, and then a hinge that is a ball joint. Swivel at the bicep, bend at the elbow, double bend at the elbow actually, no fist articulation. That double bend is for the transformation. One word of warning, the shoulders are so tight that you end up unpegging the shoulders from the rest of the body often. Torso swivel, noodle in the leg, swivel at the thigh, bend at the knee is 90 degrees, foot articulation is back a little bit, forward a little bit, and no side to side at all. Which stinks, but man, this thing looks so good. The figure has a 5mm port underneath each heel. There's obviously the hands, and then there's one 5mm port on the back for his weapon storage. And the weapon has no trouble plugging into either one of the hands. Does require a little bit of more force than I'd prefer, but overall, it works. I like it. It's very good. And a flight stand port in the keister. Wheeljack's transformation is far and away the most complex of any of the Bumblebee movie figures. And that's saying something, considering these guys have a pretty darn complex transformation. But Wheeljack's is uniquely complex. To start off with, come to the chest, unpeg the chest, and pull the entire chest forward. And then the little Autobot symbol on the front of the chest, unpeg it, and flip it around. And you've got the roof of his car mode. Next, take the wings on the back and fold them down. Now we come up to the hardest part of the transformation, and that is getting the tires flipped out and around the little post here. You can't flip them in because the tires get in the way. So what I do is I take the arm, point it all the way forward, fold the arm down, or fold the shoulder out and around. Then when we get to this point, I will push it in just a little bit, and then push the shoulder all the way back, and then fold it in and flip up the fist. And that's just on the one side. So arm all the way forward, turn it around 180 degrees. As you get it in, fold the shoulder back, and then flip the arm in and peg it into place. You're not going to be able to put the arms all the way down, so just kind of leave them out like this. For the next part of the transformation, we'll start on one of the legs, grab the shin, push the foot down, and then grab the shin and flip it up and around to cover the thigh, and then push it back and down. So grab the shin, pull it up a little bit, push the foot down, flip the shin around, and then push it down to adhere it to the top of the thigh, like that. Then take the foot and fold the foot up into the cavity left by the shins. It's not really a cavity, but the space left by the shins. Take the entire lower section and turn it around 180 degrees. Then come to the sides of the legs, unpeg the door panel, and flip it out and around, and that will peg into the rear quarter panel. And do the same thing on the other side. And now we're coming up to the end. So first, take these little panels that the wheels are on and unpeg them and snap them into place. And by snap them into place, I mean unpeg them, fold them over the leg, and then snap them into place. And remember, we still have a head hanging off the bottom, so turn the head around 180 degrees, and then fold that up into between the leg section, and there should be just enough clearance to get the head up in there. Grab the front and push it together. Then come up to the roof section and fold out the front of the hood and fold that whole section down and snap it into place. And then grab those arms, fold them down, and they will slide in just behind the roof. And we're done. No, it might not be an Audi rally car from the 80s, but this is great. This vehicle mode looks absolutely fantastic. It's a beautiful homage to that original design. It works so well. Man, is that transformation something. Weapon storage, you can peg the gun into the back of the spoiler like so, and then it can go pew 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 all over the place. I do appreciate the placement because the way the gun works and the way the gun pegs in, it's a little off center, so then once you've got it pegged in, the barrel is centered, almost centered, along the middle of the car. A quick size comparison with Ironhide, you can see that he scales to Ironhide pretty darn well. It's a lot longer than Ironhide, but definitely more squat. Alright, now that we finished 2 of them, let's move on to number 3. I'm very much trying not to be hyperbolic here, but this Arcee is quite frankly one of the best Arcee figures we have gotten in years. I think the only other figure that I have enjoyed as much as this is the Transformers Cyberverse Deluxe Arcee. And yes, that Arcee had a gigantic backpack that didn't compress at all. And this figure has a backpack, but it compresses and is so G1 not accurate, but it's inspired by Generation 1. This figure is great. The figure designers pulled off a feminine design without it being over-sexualized or, not being able to stand up. The coloring on the figure is very well done. The pink is a nice matte pink. It's not overly bright. The only complaint I have is I really dislike this head sculpt. It's just not my favorite. Or I should say the face sculpt is not my favorite. I'm kind of hoping that we get another version of Arcee in maybe another movie line. I'm sure we'll get it in Rise of the Beasts. But I don't know if they're going to be able to pull it off as well in that as they have here, because this figure is just really good. Posability for this Arcee is also excellent. Head is on a ball joint, can look down and up and side to side. Unfortunately, her collarbone doesn't always peg in that tight, so even pushing it in, you start fiddling with it and moving the backpack around, it does come unpegged. Shoulder is on a swivel and a hinge, and there's a hinge and another hinge, and there is another hinge inside the elbow. Hands do not have any articulation except collapsing in for the transformation. Torso swivel on the figure on mine is just a bit too loose. It feels like it locks into place, pointing a little bit off to the side. That's probably just because the peg has some extra flashing of plastic on it. It's not like spinning around loose, but it's just a little bit too loose for my taste. Legs are on ball joints, can kick forward and back and out pretty darn far. Bend at the knee is 90 degrees, and then there is an ankle rocker, which is actually part of the transformation. The other part of posability that we need to talk about in the legs is this component here, this kind of lower leg bit. It can move forward and then it can move all the way up for the transformation and lock into place. But it's supposed to be free. It's supposed to be a little bit movable. And that's more than just a little bit movable. But I'm okay with that because the figure you end up with can pull off some really neat moves and really cool stances if you get everything balanced right. Oh, it's just so good. The figure also sports the backpack panels that she's always had, but they also double as weapon storage in robot mode, which works very well. They peg in nice and tight. They are not going to fall off at all, and it's just a good look. And she's got 2 blasters, which, yay, she's got guns. Arcee's transformation is very cool. So we're going to start with the legs. Fold the ankles in all the way, then pull the foot down, and there's a little slot there that the toe pegs into. Flip the peg around until you have this new slot behind the wheel, push it back up into place, and then slide the leg closed, or the foot closed, and then come up to the upper part of the lower leg and just snap it into place. And do the same thing on the other side. Pull the foot away, flip it around, peg it into place, close it up, and then snap the leg up into place, and then the feet will combine. More on that in a minute. Then for the upper torso, I like to take the backpack panels and flip them all the way out to the side, then push the head out a little bit, and then accordion out the back, and accordion out the entire backpack. Take the head and flip it over the backpack, and this whole section will then flip down along the body. But before you do that, take the legs and turn them around 180 degrees. Take the head and flip it up into the front of the motorcycle mode and snap it into place. Close that front up, grab the entire section and pull it down all over. Then the upper backpack will peg into the thighs, and the lower part of the backpack where the head is pegged in will peg into the shins. Coming to the back of the vehicle mode, flip the chest back up, snap it into place, take the arms and fold them at the, rear elbows. Take these panels, flip them around, fold them down, and they will peg in at the outside of the thighs. So just peg them into place, and they will also peg into the arms. Not really peg into the arms. There is a slot for the shoulder and the bicep or the upper arm to slot into place. Just make sure that you get that all lined up, and then peg that into place. And then there are pegs in the forearms that peg into these panels. And then the worst part of the transformation is folding up the hands, and they just sit back there. Given the way that the thing transforms, and given the fact that the arms are so thin, I can forgive it. It would be nice if there was another panel that came out, but who cares? And lastly, the guns become the exhaust pipes, which I'll talk about that in a minute. And we end up with this absolutely amazing motorcycle mode. The motorcycle mode, you have wheels on the bottom. You can see that they're supposed to be in these wheel wells and covered by fenders with what looks like exhaust ports coming out the back, but they're just tiny little wheels on the toy. Then you have the guns sticking out the back. Not my favorite. And then you've got the double wheels up front. This is the one thing that really irritates me, is these double wheels. They do stay together, but not real well. The insides of the wheels spin, the outsides do not. And that I'm actually okay with, because if the outsides spun, you'd have problems. From the front and the sides, the vehicle mode is phenomenal. This is one of my favorite Arcees in terms of vehicle mode we've ever gotten. I don't particularly care for the robot chest and hands holding the guns out the back. It's not, in the grand scheme of things, it really isn't that bad. And in terms of scale, she scales perfectly with Wheeljack and with Ironhide. So yeah, she works really well in terms of scale with other figures. Overall, all 5 of these figures are a must-have in my book. Now, are they all perfect? No. I really, really wish that the leg issues didn't exist with the Ironhide, the Ratchet, and the Wheeljack. I love Brawn, I love Arcee, I love Wheeljack, I love these 2 guys. I love them all, but they're not problem-free, which is a shame. Now, my next video review, which is going to be out 2 days from the time this one is released, is going to be of the oversized Ratchet figure that I picked up over at sirtoys.com. And that fixes every single issue I have with this Ratchet. Now, my hope is that the company that is behind that makes a Brawn, a Wheeljack, and an Arcee. Because, man, I would love to have 9-inch figures of all of these guys. So, folks, let me know what you think of this set down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I have been Baltmatrix, and I will catch you all next time.